Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayamudiraye. For reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayana, to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. When will Srila, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed to practically nil, and thus loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental hymns, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations, text number 4. Please repeat. Atre apatyam abhikam sata aha tushto atre apatyam abhikam sata aha tushto dato Mayaham Iti Yad Bhagavan Sa Dataha Dato Mayaham Iti Yad Bhagavan Sa Dataha Yatpada Pankaja Paraga Pavitra Deha Yatpada Pankaja Paraga Pavitra Deha Yogardim Apur Ubayim Yadu Hai Yadyaha Yoga Dhamapur Ubayam Yadu Hai Yadya
Yoga Dhamapur Ubayam Yadu Hai Yada
Atre Patyam Abhikanshita Ahatushto Dato Mayaham Itiyad Bhagavan Sadataha Yatpada Pankaja Paraga Pavitra Deha Yoga Dhamapur Ubayam Yadu Hayajaha
Yoga Dhamapur Ubayam Yadu Hayajaya
Atre Patyam Abhikanchita Ahatushto Dato Mayaham Itiyad Bhagavan Sadataha Yatpada Pankaja Paraga Pavitra Deha Yogadim Apur Ubayam Yadu Hayajaha Tvera Patyam Abhikanchita Ahatushto Dato Mayaham Yad Bhagavan Sadadataha
Tato Mahamati Yad Bhagavan Sadataha
Yat Pada Pankaja Paraga Pavitra Deha
Yat Pada Pankaja Paraga Pavitra Deha
Yogadyam Apurubayam Yaduhai Hayajaha
Yogadyam Apurubayam Yaduhai Atrerapatya adhikasata ahatusto
Atrerapatya adhikasata ahatusto
Tato mayamiti yad bhagavan satataha
Tato mayamiti yad bhagavan satataha
Yad pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yad pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yogadrim apur haviyam yadahai hayadaha
Yogadyam Apurubayam Hayajaha
Atreyapyam abhikansata ahatusto
Atreyapatya adhikasata ahatusto
Tato mayaham iti yad bhagavan satataha
Tato mahamiti yad bhagavan sadataha
Yad pada pankaja paraga pavihateha
Yat pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yogadyam apur udayam yatu hai hayadra
Yogadyam apurvayam yadahai hayadaha
Atrirapatyam adhikansata ahatusto
Atrerapatya adhikasata ahatusto
Tato mayahamiti yad bhagavan sadataha
Tato mahamiti yad bhagavan sadataha
Yatpada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yat pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yogadim apur adhayam yadu hai yahad yaha
Yogadyam apurvayam yadahai hayadaha
Atrirapatyam adhikansata ahatusto
Atrerapatya adhikasata ahatusto
Tatto mayahamiti yad bhagavan sadattaha
Tato Mayahamiti Yad Bhagavan Sadadaha
Yatpada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yat pada pankaja paraga pavitra deha
Yogardima purvain yaduhai hayadyaha
Yogadyam apurvayam yadahai hayadaha
Anyone else? If anybody has any Sanskrit questions, you can talk to Mataji, Sarojini, Nandini, or her husband, because they a little bit qualified as Sanskrit, and can give you a proper pronunciation and help on that. Okay, let's do the word for word. Atreha
Atreha
of the sage Atri.
of the sage Atri
Apatyam
Apatyam
issue.
issue
Abhikanchita
Abhikansata
having prayed for.
having prayed for
Aha said it.
said
Tushtaha
Tushtaha
being satisfied.
being satisfied
Tataha
Tataha
given over.
given over
Maya
Maya
by me. Aham myself.
myself
Iti
Iti
thus. Yat
Yat
because. Bhagavan
Bhagavan
the personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead
Saha
Saha
he. Tataha
Tataha
Datatreya.
Datatreya
Yatpada
Yatpada
one whose feet.
one whose feet
Pankaja
Pankaja
lotus.
Lotus
Paraga
Paraga
dust.
Das
Pavitra
Pavitra
purified.
Purified
Deha
Deha
body, yoga,
Yoga.
mystic,
mystic,
redeem,
Redeem.
opulent,
Opulent.
apu,
Apu,
got,
God.
ubayam,
Ubayam,
for both the world,
For both the worlds.
Yadu,
Yadu.
the father of the Yadu dynasty,
Father of the Yadu dynasty.
Haya,
Ahaya.
Ajaha,
Ajaha.
and others,
and others,
like King Haya.
like King Haya.
Translation, please repeat. The great sage Atri
The great
Say
Savior.
Datri,
prayed for offspring,
pray for offspring,
and the Lord,
and the Lord,
being satisfied with him,
being satisfied with him,
promised to incarnate
promised to incarnate
as Atri's son,
as Datri's son,
Dattatreya,
Dattatreya,
Datta, the son of Atri.
Datra, the son of Atri.
And by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord,
By the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord,
many Yadus,
many Yadus,
Hayas,
Ahayas,
etc.,
etc.,
became so purified
became so purified
that they obtained
That
they attained
both material
both material
and spiritual
and spiritual
blessing.
blessings.
Srila Prabhupada's divine purport.
Jai Shri Prabhu.
Transcendental relations between the personality of Godhead and the living entities are eternally established in 5 different affectionate humans, which are known as Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. The sage Atri was related with the Lord in the affectionate Vatsalya Yuma, and therefore, as a result of his devotional perfection, he was inclined to have the personality of Godhead as his son. The Lord accepted his prayer, and he gave himself as the son of Atri. Such a relation of sonhood between the Lord and his pure devotees can be cited in many instances. And because the Lord is unlimited, he has an unlimited number of father devotees. Factually, the Lord is the Father of all living entities. But out of transcendental affection and love between the Lord and his devotees, the Lord takes more pleasure in becoming the son of a devotee than in becoming one's father. The father actually serves the son, whereas the son only demands all sorts of services from the father. Therefore, a pure devotee who is always inclined to serve the Lord wants him as the son and not as the father. The Lord also accepts such service from the devotee, and thus the devotee becomes more than the Lord. The impersonalists desire to become one with the Supreme, but the devotee becomes more than the Lord, surpassing the desire of the greatest monads. Parents and ever relatives of the Lord achieved all mystic opulences automatically because of their intimate relationship with the Lord. Such opulences include all details of material enjoyment, salvation, and mystic powers. Therefore, the devotee of the Lord does not seek them separately, wasting his valuable time in life. The valuable time of one's life must therefore be fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Then ever desirable achievements are automatically gained. But even after obtaining such achievements, one should be on guard against the pitfall of offenses at the feet of the devotees. The vivid example is Haihaya, who achieved all such perfection in devotional service, but because of big offense at the feet of a devotee, was killed by Lord Parashuram. The Lord became the son of the great sage Atri and became known as Dattatreya. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganam Jana Shalakaya Kakshum Militam Yena Tagmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shiguro Shiyutta Parakamalam Shigurun Vaishnavam Cha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sadhuna Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidutam Sabadutam Prajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tatta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stuti Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpya Triyascha Kripa Sandhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I didn't have a chance to look this verse over, and I don't remember exactly who Dattatreya is. So if somebody could enlighten us on the incarnation of Dattatreya, I can't seem to remember.
All I know is person that in the Narayana Kavacha shield, you pray to him because he's the master of all mystic power. So, and then it's explained that, you know, there are mystic yogis who become envious sometimes of devotees' advancement. And Dattatreya, if you pray for his protection, he can help you. That's all. I don't remember anything.
I know there's one South Indian guru in the Caribbean who has a temple in Baton Rouge, and they worship Dattatreya. But I just can't seem to bring it up. You know, I mean, I knew a minimum amount, but I knew something. I can't remember what that
Google
was.
it on your phone. If something will come up, you'll get a quote from the
Nobody else can remember anything about Dattatreya? What about Parashuram killing Haihaya? Anybody remember anything about that? I don't remember anything about Parashuram killing Haihaya. He did kill. Who did he kill? Wasn't it Krishna? Wasn't it?
Several generations of the Kshatriyas.
Yeah, but they were the sons that began with the sons of Krishna Arjuna. Wasn't it? Isn't that his name? He one time fought with Ravana and defeated Ravana back in Ravana's early career. And he had these 100 sons who he had attacked Parashuram's father, who was that Maharaj Jamadagni. And because he wanted Jamadagni's cow, but he wouldn't give him that Kamadenu cow. Actually, he didn't say anything and they stole the cow. But the cow cried out, "Why are you letting them take me?" And he said, "You are a Kamadenu cow. If you want to do something to stay with me, then do it."
Oh, you know who stole that cow? Was Vishwamitra.
Oh, yeah, they have stories mixed up.
Yeah.
That was Vishwamitra. But the same thing happened with Krishna, with his name, Krishna Arjuna, something like that. Same thing, they tried to steal the cow from Jamadagni.
You know?
Kartavya Arjuna. That name.
Yeah, Kartavya Arjuna, that's his name. Yeah, Kartavya Arjuna. So anyway, he couldn't get the cow away. The cow, from its udder came unlimited, powerful celestial soldiers that, slayed the army of Kartavya Arjuna. So eventually his sons ended up murdering Jamadagni. And that's what started Parashurama's rampage against the Kshatriyas. So anyway,
but he was also brought back to life, I think, Jamadagni. There was some yoga where he was brought back to life. They were just reading in Atlanta, and I was partially paying attention. But I remember hearing him say something about that Jamadagni was brought back to life after he'd been killed by a big yogi.
Yeah, there's more to that pastime. So the emphasis given here was on becoming Krishna's devotee in one of the different rasas. Of course, in the Shanta rasa, it's very neutral and full of our for the Lord, but one stays in a sort of neutral position, absorbed in not just Brahman realization. One observes the pastimes of the Lord, but generally they have the forms of trees and creepers and grass and various other substances and entities within the spiritual realm. That Shantaras, there's not a lot of active service. I would suppose that they're giving an aroma. Certainly the flowers give some type of active service. So, don't quote me on any of those things. Just take it with a grain of salt. They have this Shantaras, which is often considered neutral and not necessarily a ras that the devotees aspire to attain as their eternal position. We generally start with the Dasha ras, which is the rasa of servitorship and full of awe and veneration for the Lord, and is mostly exhibited in the Vaikuntha worlds. But also, it's there in Krishna Loka because all the rasas are in Krishna Loka. So you have devotees who are like Krishna's little cousin brothers, who mainly have a relationship with him of servitorship. Then you have others that have relationship also full of awe and veneration of Krishna, maybe like some of the cows do, or some of the old cowherdmen. They may share that relationship, although they may also have this parallel relationship of being like Krishna's uncle. So there are many, many great fathers of the Lord. When we chanted that prayer to Radharani, of course it names that she is the son of Vrishabhanu. Vrishabhanu had so many great qualities, and he appeared in Lord Chaitanya's Ras, or his Lord Chaitanya's Leela. Who did he appear as? Lord Chaitanya would call him Father, but his name is Pundarik Vijayanidhi. He was a great devotee, so great that Lord Chaitanya would beg him to come. Where is Father? Where's Father? So when he came to Navadvip, I can't remember the name of the devotee.
I think it was Gadadhar Pandit.
Yeah, but he was the main part of the Leela, but somebody brought Gadadhar Pandit to see him.
Right.
And wanted to show him this wonderful devotee that had come to Navadvip that Lord Chaitanya loved so much. When he brought him there, Pundarik Vijayanidhi was a rich person in this particular Leela. And of course, in Krishna's Leela, he's also rich. He's the king of, cowherds and, the father of Radharani, living on the opposite side of the mountains there from Nanda Maharaj's part of the Brajabhumi there. So Vrishabhanu, was extremely wealthy, and he was wealthy in Lord Chaitanya's Leela. And Gadadhar Pandit couldn't understand this because most of Lord Chaitanya's associates were poor Brahmins and renunciates who really just chanted the holy names of the Lord and were absorbed in Sankirtan and figuring out how to increase their congregation, how to spread love of God amongst all these so-called big Pandits who had only interest in scholarship and no interest in loving devotional service. And so amongst the Dwaita Acharya and Srivas Thakur, Gadadhar Pandit was a great devotee. Once Lord Chaitanya, when he became a pure devotee, because previously he was a part of this scholastic clan who was always competing in scholarship. And devotees had no interest in that, even though they were all Brahmins or servants of Brahmins. They didn't have an interest in just competing for titles and exhibiting their scholarly prowess. They were too absorbed in Krishna Leela and teaching Krishna consciousness and pure devotional service. And it was very upsetting to them that the mass of people didn't take an interest in it. They were too absorbed in just scholarship and rituals and trying to obtain opulence in this world, having big weddings and doing all sorts of pujas and rituals to please various devas for their material satisfaction. And no one was chanting the names of Krishna. At most, they were chanting in the morning to Pundarikaksha. They would say while doing their ablations in the Ganga. But other than that, they didn't. Still, Lord Chaitanya, he tricked them by appearing on the eclipse, and out of fear, they were all chanting Hari, Hari, Hari. But it went away soon, and they went back to their scholastic pursuits and studies and logic and debate and Sanskrit grammar, but not just a kid's beginning grammar. They were like professional Sanskritists who could compose all sorts of elegant poetry and philosophical discourses in the language and compete with other scholars on their particular views. So they went back to doing that. Lord Chaitanya became the best of the best amongst them, although he was only 16 years old. All the big Pandits, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, with hundreds and thousands of disciples, had to succumb to him. They were in fear of him. And although they were very fearful of him because of the embarrassment of a child being more intelligent than them, still they all went away feeling a great love in their heart, because Lord Chaitanya was not only greater than them in scholarship, but he was also greater than them to them in beauty and in influence, and they would be just enamored by him. And so the feeling was very wonderful to have come in touch with him that day and to be defeated by him. And although it was a shame and an embarrassment, they couldn't help but love him. They never became like envious of him. Of course, there was some rascals there who were envious and caused some problems, but they were just on the quick road to hell, so to speak, by not taking advantage. But eventually, the Lord convinced everyone. That was the purpose of him taking sannyas, because they all, instead of finding fault and criticizing him, they had to be more respectful because he was a sannyasi, and that was just the norm in that particular culture. There was, no one would say anything critical of a sannyasi, out of fear of bad karma. So anyhow, this Pundarik Virginity, he was, greatly admired by Lord Chaitanya, and he was brought by one devotee. I can't remember whom. One devotee brought Gadadhar Pandit, whom Lord Chaitanya said was much more fortunate than he, because Gadadhar Pandit was a pure devotee from the time of his birth. He always loved Krishna. And he never got enamored by anything material, including scholarship. Although he was a pandit, a Gadadhar Pandit. He was a Brahmin, by birth. And he, one time Lord Chaitanya turned the worship of his deity over to him because he couldn't worship him anymore after he became a pure devotee. Because he couldn't stop crying. And so he was always messing up his clothes. And he was constantly having to change clothes and he couldn't get the puja done. So he requested Gadadhar Pandit, you please do the puja for me. Another time Gadadhar Pandit was there on the scene when Lord Chaitanya was asking where about Paramatma. And when they said, somebody said, he's in your heart. And he started to rip his heart, his skin apart to find the Paramatma in his heart. And Mother Sachi was frightened, didn't know what to do. And Gadadhar Pandit was there, and to use common language nowadays, he talked him down. They use that term when they talk about people who have some psychological issues and they're on the verge of doing something disastrous. And they use that term to talk them down, become more stable and normal. And so anyway, Gadadhar Pandit talked Lord Chaitanya down and he'd desist from tearing his chest apart. So, Gadadhar Pandit was greatly appreciated by all the devotees, but he was brought to see this great devotee. And when he saw him, all kinds of doubt entered his mind. Why is he bringing me to see this, this materialistic devotee? He's just sitting here on this nice soft bed, these cushions, just like we would go see Srila Prabhupada and have these cushions all over the floor with a sheet on the floor, and he has these booster things, and he'd be leaning up against it like this. We had this big fancy bed that he was sitting on, and there were people with charmers fanning him, and beautiful ladies, and he had long hair. He didn't have a shaved head Vasika, long hair, and it was all oiled, real fancy. In the opulent dress, obviously, a very wealthy person. And, just seemed to be sitting back eating grapes or whatever. Prasad was there. And so Gadadhar Pandit had some doubt. Why bringing me to see this so-called great devotee, but he doesn't look like a great devotee. They had some doubt. And this other devotee, Mukunda, it was Mukunda. Mukunda was the greatest of Kirtaniyas. He could melt stone. Lord Chaitanya always loved his singing. Even he, though, Lord Chaitanya one time chastised for listening to the Mayavadis. So, but anyhow, that's another story. So, Mukunda brought Gadadhar Pandit. And so Mukunda could understand that he was having some doubts. He could read his body language and mind, just his facial features. So he began to sing. And as he sang, Pundarik Vijayanidhi was listening, and he fell into a trance. And in his trance, he started to exhibit all sorts of devotional ecstasies, like generally only Lord Chaitanya could exhibit. His body started to tremble, and he shook, and his hairs just jumped up on end, and like with big goosebumps, and perspiration was coming out. I don't know about blood. I can't say if it says blood. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya would bleed, and his teeth were just rattling. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. Sometimes at night, people who are under stress a lot of times, they tend to grind their teeth. And so nowadays they make people wear these mouth guards so you don't grind your teeth down. But sometimes those teeth, for whatever reason, they'll chatter. I don't know, it's like, there's some sort of magnetic force there, and due to the circumstances, and I noticed at night sometimes my teeth would be chattering, and I'd have to try to talk them down. They stop that. I can't sleep. What are you doing that for? But anyhow, he was exhibiting all these devotional symptoms to the extent that he just threw the pillars and the sheets and rolled off the bed and was just rolling around on the floor, and perspiration and his body becoming covered with dust, and the fruit trays all over the place, all the ladies running away, and Gadara Pandit is looking and he's saying, my God, just from hearing the beautiful slokas from the lips of Mukunda, he's fallen into a fit of ecstasy in Krishna consciousness. And I've made a great mistake of thinking in an offensive way about this person. So as the story goes, later on, he takes initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Pundarik Vijayanidhi was always considered father by Lord Chaitanya, but he himself was chastised by Lord Jagannath himself in Nilachila. He was there seeing Lord Chaitanya because, before, this is back in the Navadvip pastime where Gadara Pandit sees him. So, after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he goes to Nilachila, Jagannath Puri, and all the Bengali devotees would go there every year to see him, but some would stay there. So Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he's there, and he's walking around with Swarup Damodar, the most intimate servant of the Lord. And they both are great devotees, Swarup Damodar is the most intimate servitor of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so they're walking around, and Pundarik Vijayanidhi begins to make fun of the Pandits in Jagannath Puri. Pandits, he says, can you believe what they do? Can you believe that they offer Lord Jagannath cloth that has starch still in it? It's new cloth, and they don't bother to wash it and make it soft and smooth for the Lord. They offer a starchy cloth to the Lord. And these are the Pandits that are the servants of Lord Jagannath, and they don't understand that you should make the cloth soft. So this way he's ridiculing them. And that night he goes to sleep, and while he's sleeping, Jagannath appears. He begins to slap his face, just slapping his face. Why have you talked about my devotees like that? He's slapping his face. The next morning he wakes up, and his face hurts, and he looks, and I guess it's some kind of mirror, and there it is, and he falls into ecstasy. Lord Jagannath has personally come and chastised me and slapped my face. So immediately he goes to Swarup Damodar and says, look, what happened? Swarup Damodar says, what happened to your face? And so he tells him, Lord Jagannath came and chastised me. And so they're both in ecstasy and started to laugh and just be absorbed in, divine ecstasy. So, the Lord's pastimes are so multi-dimensional. So many fathers, like for instance, Dasarath, he loved his son, Ram, so dearly. And, the fathers have some difficult times because they love their perfect son, the Lord himself, just enamors. Like, anyone who has an experience of being a parent, there's a natural love with your child. Child may even be bad, there's a sort of unconditional love. You try to help, and, I know there's stories of parents that just ostracize the child because they married the wrong person, or they've done this, they've done that. But there's so many stories of practically, unconditional love, to the extent that many times parents make a mistake and they don't teach the child properly. And Prabhupada used to give the story of the son who was in prison. The mother goes to visit him, and he asks her to come close, and he bites her ear off. She says, why have you done that? He says, because you never taught me not to do the things that put me here. Still, parents, they have this. So the parents, they have this love, and that's why generally parents don't teach the children, because many times you can't discipline them properly because you love them too much. And so they send them to the Gurukula, even when they're 5 years old. So Dasarath Maharaj, he has his son, and he really loves Ram. But this Vishwamitra shows up. This is after he has already stolen, wait a minute, I got them mixed up. Vishwamitra and
Vasista.
Vasista. This is after Vishwamitra stole Vasista's cow. Vasista's a son of Brahma. You know, he's like one of the 11 sons of Brahma. I mean, a great, powerful Brahmin in the universe, you know. And, you know, Vasista was a Khatri and he tried to steal his cow. And Vasista defeated him with Brahminical power, so he wanted to become a Brahmin. There's a whole story about him trying to become a Brahmin. But he does become a renunciate Brahmin to the extent that here he is in Ram's Leela going to the house of Dasarath in order to seek service from Ram. He has to get rid of some demons that are messing up his yagas, but he doesn't want to use his own power to do that because it will diminish his spiritual strength. So he needs to find some Khatri whose duty that is to make the world peaceful. So he goes to Dasarath, and you know Dasarath, you know, of course, is treating him very nice, and you know, plus he's got a reputation that you don't want to mistreat him. He's not just a gentle Brahmin; he's a very powerful Brahmin who can be insulted if you make some, you know, gross mistake. So Dasarath's really on his tiptoes trying to satisfy him, and he tells him, you know, what do you want? Take whatever you want. I'll give you whatever you want. Just let me know. I'll give you my very life. He says, no, all I want is Ram. I need Ram to come with me. You know, I got this demon that's bothering the yaga, and so I'm going to take Ram. And Dasarath's jaw just drops. What? No, you can't take Ram. You know, Ram's, you know, he's just a kid. He hasn't even been, you know, fully taught all the missiles and weapons and what their Khattriyas need to defeat these demons. You can't take Ram. Look, I'll go get my army. I'll go. But Vishwamitra is insisting. No, I want Ram. And finally he gets upset. And he says, all right. And he leaves. And immediately, I think Vasista is actually playing.
Vishwamitra.
Yeah, that's Vishwamitra leaves, but I think Vasista may be playing as the royal pandit of Dasarath.
Wow.
And so he goes there and he says, hey, this is Vishwamitra Muni. Send your son with him. He will greatly benefit in this pastime. He will learn many astras and he will return here safely after, you know, increasing his reputation. And so Dasarath relents and he turns his son over to Vishwamitra. But it's only, you know, with a lot of heartbreak. But then, you know, Ram comes back. And here he is again enjoying, he's going to install Ram as prince. And then the whole episode happens where Ram gets banished. To the extent that Dasarath is so upset that he had to do this, that Providence put him in this situation. And he had to banish Ram, you know, on the order of his youngest and most beautiful wife that he became so attached to and he owed a favor to. And she demanded it, and he couldn't break his word of truth. So he did this, but he was so pained, he passed away. And Nanda Maharaj was also like that when Krishna left Vrindavan. Him and Yasoda went like crazy. You know, they would just sit in the house, you know, talking as though Krishna was there. But Krishna was gone. And, you know, even Radharani chastised him when they all met in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Krishna was a prince. That, you know, your father and mother are like delirious while you simply enjoy the kingdom of Dwarka. You know, when will you return to Vrindavan and take care of your mother and father? And you can imagine what happened to Yasoda. Jagannath, not Yasoda, but, I mean, you can imagine what happened to her too, but what happened to Sachimata. Because Jagannath Mishra already left. He had a dream that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, a dream. And it disturbed him so much that a few days later, he left this world. He just couldn't enter that pastime. He'd already, Vishvarupa had took sannyas. They had many daughters, I can't remember how many, maybe 8. They all died in childbirth. And then they had Vishvamitra. And Vishwamitra was, not Vishwamitra, I got it mixed up again. Vishvarupa. And Vishvarupa was renounced from the time of birth. But he was greatly loved by all these Vaishnavas who couldn't find any association with all these scholars in Navadvip. You know, Vishvarupa was like candy for them. He would come to the assemblies and he would speak so wonderfully in Krishna consciousness. And he looked so beautiful. I mean, he was just a young, powerful person. But when he heard that his mother and father were planning his marriage, he took sannyas of life. So that broke their heart, but all their friends talked them down. They said, look, you got Nimai here. Nimai, who would not be happy to have Nimai as their son here? We know it's been disastrous that Vishwarupa left prematurely and took sannyas, and that has greatly disturbed you. I mean, after all, the parents, need the grandchildren, but they need their children, because when they leave, who's going to perform the oblations to free them from their ill karmas? That's the culture. It's a protective culture. So the oldest son is supposed to perform sacrifices in order to help their parents who have passed on. They help their ancestors. They do this quite commonly when they go into Ganga. They offer Ganga water. They're offering for their ancestors. Please help my father. Please help my mother. So now, but Vishvarupa has left. There's not going to be any grandchildren, and he's not going to be offering oblations. He's renounced the world. He's considered dead socially. And he won't return home. But they talk him down because, after all, Nimai is there. And, and after all, who couldn't be pacified when you still have Nimai? And so they were happy again. But then Jagannath Mitra was thinking, if he goes to school, he's going to become a pandit. And the same thing's going to happen when he enters deep into the Shastra. He's going to see that this world is just an illusion. He's going to take sannyas. I'm not going to send him to school. And he didn't send him to school. But eventually Lord Chaitanya, he did some things that forced the father to send him back to school. But in the course of time, he has this dream. And in this dream, Lord Chaitanya is chanting and dancing and being followed by millions of people. And he's shaved up, and he has on the garb of a sannyasi. Jagannath Mishra, the next morning, can't even talk. Eventually, Sachimati is asking him what's wrong, and she tells him. He tells her. And she said, but it's just a dream, don't worry. But he can't get out of his mind, and a few days later he leaves the world. So the plight of Lord Chaitanya, the plight of Krishna's parents, they love him so much. So then imagine Mother Sachi, because she stays for the sannyasa leela. You can imagine when she hears that he's left for sannyas. At first, he has to do all sorts of things to actually be able to break away. He has to take her off privately and describe the many times she's been his mother. And that, this is just his leela. It's for the good of the world. Don't worry, I'm always with you. I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm always going to be there. You just call me to eat and I'll eat. And he did. He would eat. Even though, apparently he wasn't there. So, another case of the Lord's parents. So, I'm sure there's some leela, like maybe in the Vamanadev leela, where his mother is Aditi, his father Kashyapa. And there he only takes the kingdom from Bali Maharaj and returns it to his brothers, the Devas. So there, I don't know how much he stays at home because he goes off to Bali's kingdom. to serve there as his, I don't know, like they say doorkeeper, like a butler. I don't know if that's what he actually did, but so I don't know if you could say he left home prematurely. I mean, in the celestial world, they don't stay in a baby Leela for long. They expand very quickly. And so, Vamanadev, he appeared, but then he was a dwarf Brahmin that was awarded all sorts of presents by the other devas. And then he goes off to seek charity from Bali Maharaj, who's controlling the universe, sitting on Indra's throne. So, maybe they had enough of their celestial parental pastime, but still it's the Lord, so you can't get enough of him. Whatever parents were Krishna's parents in different incarnations. And we don't hear a lot about, the same parent is Krishna, Vasudeva, and from a different wife, though, Rohini, although Balaram appears in the womb of Devaki, he's transferred to the womb of Rohini. And Rohini is very unique because she enjoys not only the Vrindavan Leela, but she is absorbed in Dwarka Leela. In fact, the pastime of Jagannath is that Rohini is describing these pastimes to the queens of Dwarka. And that's when Baladev happens to come by, Balaram. He's hearing his mother describing the pastimes of Vrindavan, which he and Krishna, experience, and he falls into that ecstasy. And that ecstasy makes him look like our Balaram. These strange ecstasies where, all of his hands go in and his eyes get big and he's huge smile. And so then Subhadra comes by and the same thing happens. I don't think she was able to witness the pastimes. It doesn't say in the little bit that I've heard, what happens to her after she is taken from Yasoda and brought to Devaki, and then when Kamsa tries to kill her, she appears as Durga. And then it says that she goes off in different places, but it doesn't say exactly where in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So maybe one of the Puranas to give more information. But later on, she's there as a princess in Dwarka, and Arjuna marries Subhadra. So anyway, Subhadra is in Dwarka, and she's hearing these pastimes being told by Rohini, and she falls into ecstasy, and eventually Krishna comes around, and the same thing happens to him. And that's the form of Jagannath. So you see Lord Jagannath, although he's the Lord of the universe, he's sitting in ecstasy meditating on the Vrindavan Leela. Because those pastimes are so wonderful. So Krishna plays his Bala Gopal, and he grows up and he's got his cowherd friends. It's like everything's unconventional. If you can remember when you were a kid, besides being forced to do things like, unless you were some pandit, most kids in our type of school systems couldn't really always appreciate it, It was, at least I couldn't. But other than that, there's a sort of, kids like to play. And, you just feel sort of free. And if things aren't disturbed at home, then, it's like everything can be as perfect as possible. And Dwi Puja always tells the stories of, because he's from a country town in Mississippi, and he tells the stories of, swimming in the rivers. She says, just like the cowherd boys, we would swim in the rivers, we would play in the woods. Guru tells stories of playing in the woods in West Virginia. Same thing, kids, they can just enjoy themselves. So it was like that in Krishna's Leela with the cowherd boys. But then at night, because the girls couldn't participate, they would be home making things, cooking and doing, all the things that the ladies did to keep the village rolling and households moving. And they'd be chanting about Krishna. They had this love for Krishna. But Krishna at night they would meet. You know, he would play with the cowherd girls at night, you know, singing and dancing. I mean, isn't that what young girls and boys do, this thing of singing and dancing? I mean, you know, the perverted reflection is that, you know, they go to clubs and, you know, they sing and dance, and, you know, in schools they have these balls and these dances, and they, you know, chaperones are there, but the kids put on music and they dance. So Krishna, you know, he would go and they would dance on the bank of the Yamuna in the woods, and Krishna would be playing this, you know, the most intriguing music. I mean, we can't imagine the music of Krishna. So and then, you know, those nights would be expanded in long lengths of time where everybody else just sat in suspended animation of sleep. And then the next morning things would start again. Krishna enjoying his pastimes with the cowherd boys. First with his parents, because after all, you know, the mother is who wakes him up and he gets dressed, and, you know, he's going to work, but he's working, you know, under the direction of the father. You know, those boys, you know, they're herding all these calves, while the fathers are herding all the cows and bulls and doing whatever they need to do. So then Krishna was enjoying with the boys, but then again at night, you know, after he's eaten dinner with his parents and went to sleep, you know, they put him to rest, and there he is stealing away at night and calling all the girls in Vrindavan to come meet him for pastimes of singing and dancing. Any other parents, Krishna, or, you know, in one of his incarnations? I mean, some don't have parents, apparently. I mean, like the Leela avatars, Mashya, Kurma, Nishringa,
Varaha. Comes from the nose of Brahma.
First one is probably Vamanadev.
First one is Varaha.
At least in the ones, you know, we sing about.
We read.
Well, Varaha, but I mean, they don't have parents. First with parents is Vamanadev. And Parashuram's parents, Rama's parents, you know, from the Dasha Avatar, Balaram's parents. Even Buddha's parents, they loved him so much that they wouldn't tell him about the miseries of the world. They wouldn't show him the miseries of the world. No birth, death, old age, and disease. It doesn't exist. They don't even talk about those things. So he didn't think those things were there. He's just growing up. He thinks everything's great in life, until all of a sudden he kind of steals away, sneaks away to go see what's going on the other side of the palace, and he meets a dying, you know, diseased person. What happened to you? What do you mean what happened to me? You know, the same thing's going to happen to you. You know, just like Prabhupada told us, don't think this isn't going to happen to you. That's life in the material world. Happens to all of us. You know, birth, death, old age, and disease. The body is just like a car, you know. I mean, you drive it, you buy it new, oh, it's great, you know, and then, you know, eventually things start happening. So, you know, Buddha was so shocked that, you know, he goes on to become the famous Buddha, you know. So but he left his parents. You know, he left. You know, they loved him so much they wouldn't even show him these things, but you could imagine after he left.
His young wife and son also.
Yeah. He was already married. And then, of course, you know, Krishna, you know, Kalki now may be different, because Kalki's parents, you know, they're being terrorized by all these barbarian, warlike tribes, you know, of warmongers. You know, these fallen people at the end of Kali Yuga, you know, who just constantly at war with one another. And, you know, and the devotees, you know, have to, you know, hide out in caves, it's said. So anyway, you know, Kalki, he appears, but he slays all these demons and ushers in the age of Satya Yuga. It doesn't really say in our Bhagavatam where he goes after that, you know, whether he goes home and for some time they reign in the kingdom. Because after all, you know, Ram, he reigned in Ayodhya for thousands of years. You know, even after Sita left. You know, Sita left. But his mothers were still there. His father had already gone. His brothers were there. And even his grandchildren were there, because eventually he turns the kingdom over to them. And they all leave the world, entering into the, what's the name of the river, the Sarayu? What's the name of that sacred river?
Sorry.
Huh?
Sorry.
Sarayu.
Sarayu, yeah. So they all went into the Sarayu and go back home, back to Godhead, except for Hanuman. He makes Hanuman stay to protect the devotees. So, in India, Hanuman there's more Hanuman temples than any other temple. From what I've read statistically, I do know there's lots of Hanuman temples. So Hanuman's there to protect the devotees, and he appears in Krishna's Leela on the flag of Arjuna. Also, he gives, Bhima, some blessings. I don't know if he gave him his club, but when he appeared when Bhima's out searching for a flower for Draupadi, some flowers. And then he also appears in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, Murari Gupta. It says, Murari Gupta could cure the material and spiritual diseases of people, because not only being a great devotee, he was an Ayurvedic doctor. Lord Chaitanya used a kid with him in the school. Now, why don't you go home? Why are you here studying Sanskrit grammar? Go home and study your herbs and cure people's mucus and stuff, And why are you here studying with us? And Lord Chaitanya, Murari Gupta would counter him by saying something like, what have I not answered correctly? Eventually, they would have some debate, and Murari Gupta actually, Lord Chaitanya allowed him to defeat him. But Murari Gupta was so astounding, he said, this can't be an ordinary person. Because actually I feel completely involved in his association by his touch. And he goes on to surrender to him and become one of his devotees, like disciples. Because Lord Chaitanya, he was always defeating everybody, But he let Murari Gupta defeat him, but after defeating him, he was so astounded that he could know everything that, he goes on to become his devotee. And so that's the Lord's incarnation is Hanuman. So this is real life with Krishna. Life without Krishna is just a big illusion. Despite how opulent it may seem, a world without Krishna where you have all sorts of things, including religion, and you have armies, and you have lots of wealth, and just like in our society today, you have big bankers, and you have big merchants, and you have all sorts of people, and you have a whole society. About Krishna, I could say growing up, have great experiences that maybe if you grew up in India and there's always Krishna, that's one thing. But in America, there was no Krishna. And so we grew up, we had our religion, we had everything, but there was no Krishna. That's not so wonderful. I mean, why is it that devotees can give that up? And not all people give that up. People remain very attached to their so-called culture. But because, Krishna is much more, find some adjectives like, wonderful, it just completes the picture that all of this, it seems so trivial. It seems like, the kingdom of God is, it's not so intriguing by, as this world may be for a young person, but how it becomes bitter, as Prabhupada describes, as people, die on you, and so many things happen to your own self and your loved ones, and this and that, the world then becomes, you see it for what it really is. But, as soon as you put Krishna in the picture, then everything becomes very nice. Just like when Krishna entered Mathura, there was the Brahmin who made garlands, and he offered Krishna a garland. Krishna blessed him. May you have both material and spiritual happiness. So, such a wonderful culture, where people can live such a nice life, as good as it can be in this world. Of course, we can never be fooled thinking that, this world is the all in all. No, but as nice as you can have it in this life. Like yesterday I read about one devotee. I mean, can you believe it? This devotee left the world in the temple room with his family and all the devotees hearing and chanting, including one sannyasi, I can't remember his name, and just left the world. I mean, he left. Nobody expected it, he left. So, I mean, it's said that devotees, many times they'll have just they'll have a simple, nice life, and a simple and easy death, and then they go back home, back to God. Whereas how miserable it can be for people in this world. We see the sufferings of people in Syria. I mean, can you imagine having to live in such a war-torn place with armies fighting and molesting your family and so many things, terrible things. What were you going to say there, Nima?
I was 16. Actually, we had a group in Jalandhar, Punjab, and Road. So my friend also passed away like that. He was 17. Really? We was playing Mardanga. He also playing drum. Gaur Purnima day.
On Gaur Purnima?
Yeah. So doing kirtan, and
he just kind of fell over.
Yeah, he felt easy. Just left his body in temple room.
Fell on the ground and all the devotees kind of circling.
Yeah, so his kirtan's going on. Big kirtan was going on, and he suddenly just fell down. He left his body.
Wow.
He was only 17? 17?
I was 16. Yeah, he was one bigger.
It happened in Yogindra when the kid was 24 years old, right in the middle of kirtan.
Wow.
The temple fell over, heart attack.
I know it happened to one old man in Canada, a devotee like that, Actually, I think two of them, but they were old, But for young people, it's very surprising.
Yeah, I heard Goldman Maharaj, while giving a Bhagavatam class in Mayapur, he left his body.
I don't know if it wasn't like a Bhagavatam class in the temple. It was in his room. He was speaking to some people.
Okay.
And he said something like, he's speaking on, the Lord, and he said, Jagannath! Going, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.